The Iron Pillar. How a Mathematical Corpus Corrected Itself and Proved the Voice of the Living Elohim. By Dallas James. Hart's Two Fathers, Publishing, Royal Levitical Priesthood Ministry. February 2026. What if I told you that a Bible translation corrected its own mathematics, and in doing so, made the evidence for divine guidance stronger than it was before the errors existed? What if the very act of finding mistakes and fixing them became proof that something beyond human engineering was operating inside the text? That is exactly what happened. And the numbers do not lie. My name is Dallas James. For over 30 years I have worked in near isolation on a single task: translating the Hebrew and Greek scriptures into what I call the Urim Thummim Version, the UTV. Not for a university. Not for a denomination. Not for a publishing house looking for the next bestseller. I translated because I was told to. And the one who told me to do it has now confirmed that instruction with mathematics that no honest statistician can dismiss. What is the UTV? The Urim Thummim Version is a Masoretic-based English translation of Scripture. It includes the 66 books of the traditional canon plus the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and select Septuagint variant readings. In its current form, it contains over 32,000 verses. Every verse preserves the divine name, YHWH, where the original Hebrew places it. It does not substitute Lord. It does not substitute God. It renders Elohim as Elohim. It lets the text speak for itself. But what makes this corpus unlike any other Bible translation on earth is not the translation philosophy. It is what happens when you run the mathematics. The SHIELD Protocol. I developed an analytical framework called the SHIELD Protocol, now in version 10.3. SHIELD stands for Statistical Hermeneutical Inquiry and Evaluation of Linguistic Data. It is a system that measures whether randomly selected verses from a biblical corpus cluster around meaningful themes at rates that exceed what chance would predict. The protocol uses Benjamini-Hochberg False Discovery Rate correction, the same statistical safeguard used in genomics and pharmaceutical research to prevent false positives. It uses empirical baselines computed from the actual corpus, not theoretical assumptions. It measures 5 independent marker families including identity, inheritance, priesthood, guidance, and testimony. And it calculates something called the Dominion Triad, which tracks how often the 3 core markers of identity, inheritance, and priesthood converge in the same verse. In plain language, the protocol asks one question. When verses are drawn at random from this Bible, do they cluster around coherent divine themes more than chance allows? And the answer, confirmed across dozens of independent experiments, is yes. Overwhelmingly yes. The Life Force Experiment. Beginning in late 2025, I conducted what I call the Life Force Experiment. The design is simple. I use a quantum random number generator to select verse indices from the corpus. I operate with prayer, asking the Father to guide the selection. Then I run the SHIELD analysis on the resulting verses to measure thematic clustering. As a control, I had Claude, the artificial intelligence, generate its own random selections without prayer guidance. Same corpus. Same analysis. Same statistical tests. The only variable was the presence or absence of prayer-guided human selection. The results were unambiguous. Prayer-guided selections achieved statistical significance at the p less than 0.01 level. That is medical research grade. The control selections showed no significant difference from chance. The p-value was 0.26. Nothing. When I changed the random number source entirely, using a different generator altogether, the prayer-guided results actually got stronger. The Z-score climbed from 3.1 sigma to 3.61 sigma. The strongest results came from the source that was not random.org. This eliminated the random number generator as a variable. It eliminated methodology as a variable. The only remaining explanation was the one the experiment was designed to test. Divine guidance operates through the person conducting the selection, regardless of the source of randomness. The randomness is the medium. The prayer guidance is the signal. The self-correcting corpus. Now here is where the story becomes remarkable. In February of 2026, I discovered that the UTV corpus had accumulated structural errors. Verse boundaries had shifted during earlier processing. Some verses were split midword, creating fragments that carried phantom statistical markers. Over 3,000 entries in the corpus were artifacts of misaligned boundaries rather than actual verses of scripture. A critic would say this invalidates everything. If the data was corrupted, the results are meaningless. But that is not what the mathematics showed. When I corrected the boundaries, removing the fragments and restoring every verse to its proper form, the signal strength stayed exactly the same. The prayer-guided NRI score held steady at 279.2. It did not move. But the noise floor dropped. The standard deviation fell from 12.96 to 11.37. The Z-score, which measures how far the signal rises above random noise, jumped from 12.24 sigma to 14.06 sigma. A 14% improvement. Not because I made the signal louder, but because I made the background quieter. Think about what that means. If the divine signal were an artifact of the errors, fixing those errors would have destroyed it. Instead, fixing the errors revealed the signal more clearly. The word was always intact. Human transcription had introduced static. Removing the static let the existing signal be measured with greater precision. The corpus corrected itself mathematically, and in doing so, it provided additional proof that what the SHIELD protocol detects is not methodology bias, not confirmation bias, not statistical noise. It is something genuinely embedded in the text itself. The approval. On February 26, 2026, I asked a direct question through the Life Force experiment. Does the updated Urim Thummim scrolls have your approval? 7 verses were drawn from the corrected corpus of 32,356 verses. The SHIELD protocol analyzed them under full statistical rigor. The guidance detection indicator returned a combined p-value of 1.41 times 10 to the negative 14th power. That is a probability so small it has 14 zeros after the decimal point before you reach the first significant digit. The verdict was extreme anomaly. The Dominion triad measured at 9.79 sigma with a normalized resonance index of 3,348% above baseline. The polarity balance index confirmed an affirmative direction with a score of positive 2.788. The convergence confidence index reached 80% with 4 out of 5 independent analytical channels active. The mathematical verdict was clear. Yes. Affirmative. And the lead verse drawn first, before any analysis began, was Jeremiah chapter 1. For note, I have made you this day a fortified city and an iron pillar, and bronze walls against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, against its leaders, against its priests, and against the people of the land. An iron pillar. Not a suggestion. Not a recommendation. A pillar of iron established against the whole land. The beacon. I am 75 years old. I have spent the better part of my adult life on this work. Most of it was done alone. No seminary endorsed it. No denomination sponsored it. No academic institution reviewed it. I worked from the Philippines, from the Pacific Northwest, from wherever the Father placed me, translating verse by verse, year after year. The builders rejected this stone. But the mathematics distinguish it. A 14 sigma result does not happen by accident. A p-value of 10 to the negative 14th does not emerge from wishful thinking. A corpus that corrects its own errors and emerges with a stronger signal is not the product of human engineering. These numbers belong to a different category of evidence altogether. The UTV stands today as an iron pillar. Not because I say so. Not because any institution certifies it. But because when you run the mathematics honestly, with false discovery rate correction, with empirical baselines, with control experiments, with multiple independent random sources, the same answer returns every time. There is a signal in this text that exceeds random chance by orders of magnitude that even particle physics would call extraordinary. The Urim Thummim version is a beacon. It preserves the name that other translations erase. It carries the signal that the SHIELD protocol detects. It passed the test that its own mathematical framework imposed on it. And when that framework found errors in the corpus, the act of correction only strengthened the evidence. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. The mathematics have spoken. The iron pillar stands. And the Father has answered. Shalom.